The final roster spots for the Green Bay Packers are going to be decided by injury, not by talent.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. The final 53 is going to be decided by the players who are healthy and who are, perhaps more importantly, not healthy. Because as we've discussed here over the last couple weeks, this is not about, one linebacker fighting with another linebacker for that last spot. Although in this case, maybe Isaiah Simmons and Christian Welch are actually doing that. That might be the only place on this roster where that is true. It's more about, okay, do you want to keep the extra tight end, the extra tackle, the extra defensive tackle, the extra linebacker? It's really more about comparing not one player at his position to another, though, that is part of this, right? Like if the player on the chopping block potentially were a spot higher on the depth chart, they would not be potentially on the chopping block. But I don't think this roster cuts comes down to, this offensive lineman and this offensive lineman, this linebacker and this. No, it's this player at this position versus this player at this other position. And as I went through the final projections that I have, I made a couple changes over the course of the last week. And one of them was I took a tight end off the final projection. I think there will only be 3 tight ends on this final projection. It will be Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, and we'll see. I think probably Ben Sims, but we'll see. And I think it will mean adding an offensive lineman, at least to my projections. The Packers traded a 2027 6th-round pick for Darian Kennard, offensive tackle from the Eagles. And so I think he is a very good bet to make this team. Before, I thought there were probably 8 offensive linemen that were going to make this team. Now I think that makes it 9. Although if it were 8, I wouldn't be that surprised because I think this team is in very good position to deal with injury. You have, whatever. Right now, I think Aaron Banks, because he's hurt, is going to make it easier to say, well, Jordan Morgan's a guard. Okay, well, Anthony Belton's a tackle. You have those 2 guys. You need something else. You add Kennard. What else do you have? Donovan Jennings started when there was injuries against the Colts. Started this last preseason game. And though I don't know that he was great in either situation, he seems to be running ahead of someone like Jacob Monk, who did not play in this last preseason game. And we don't have an injury designation there, but the telecast said no healthy scratches for the final preseason game. Whether you believe that, okay, I get it. But so, okay. Marshawn Lloyd. I have 4 running backs on the Packers 53-man roster projections. If Marshawn Lloyd is not one of them, if he's going on the IR, and remember the rules changed, so you don't have to be on the final 53 to hit IR with a designation to return. That's important. Well, that gives you another spot somewhere else. Corner, linebacker, offensive line. The way that I did it is I don't have enough information to project what's going on with Marshawn Lloyd. Now, Matt LaFleur said he's going to miss time. We don't know what that means. And so for me, I just think if Marshawn Lloyd is healthy enough to be around for week 2, week 3, he's going to make the team. But we don't know. I think Aaron Banks' injury affects the way the Packers look at this roster. Back injuries are tricky. Do they keep an extra offensive lineman? That's why I have it at 9 right now. There have been years with the Packers, with Matt LaFleur, have kept 10. And I projected, 10 plus at times for the Green Bay Packers, partially because you're just kind of going, I don't know. We don't know who those backup offensive linemen are going to be. I feel pretty good about this group. Lacita Smith, who they just picked up, played center for them. He could be one of those surprise additions to this offensive line. We'll see on that. The defense seems pretty set to me unless they're going to keep an extra linebacker. So unless they keep Simmons and Welch, I don't really know if there's any wiggle room here. Now, if Baron Sorrell, though, makes the IR designation to return, they probably have to keep another defensive end. Maybe Aaron Mosby. You put Baron Sorrell on the IR to return, and you keep Mosby out there. I hesitate to even say this, but I feel like that is, it's not cheating, but I want to do this with the understanding of who are the 53 guys you want to keep. That's the part where I think is valuable to you, the audience. Because I don't have the medical information. So I don't know how long it's going to be for Marshawn Lloyd. I don't know how it's going to be for Aaron Banks. I don't know how long it's going to be for Baron Sorrell. So we're going to get to cut down day, and the Packers are going to have that information. They're going to know 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks, whatever it is. I'm not. So I sort of want to start from these are the players the Packers would prefer to keep if they can. But this is why we're starting here. Because Marshawn Lloyd, that opens up a spot for someone else if he's not healthy. Aaron Banks, I don't think he'd start the season on IR, but you need to keep an extra offensive lineman if he's not healthy. Baron Sorrell, you do need an extra pass rusher on the edge if Sorrell is not healthy. And then, okay, how many defensive tackles can you keep? How many linebackers do you want to keep? How many corners do you want to keep? I think those are real questions. Right now, I have 6 defensive tackles on this roster right now today. And I'm looking at my list and I go, I think this list makes sense for the Packers. It makes even more sense if someone like Marshawn Lloyd goes on IR. It makes even more sense if someone like Baron Sorrell goes on IR. Then you want someone like Warren Brinson, for example, even more because he's going to play defensive end on base downs in their 3-4, and then maybe you pull that linebacker down. Maybe you move Isaiah Simmons or Isaiah McDuffie or whoever it's going to be down in the box. Have that play that sort of edge Sam linebacker spot with a true 5 technique down there in that 3 down lineman front. But injuries are going to dictate that. So that makes it tricky to predict these things. I don't say that to, shirk my responsibility to you, because I take all of this responsibility seriously, but the injury piece of this and the shape that the roster take as a result is crucial. Now, who helped themselves the most based on the preseason? We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Packers. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to get Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is the next generation prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. Head to RugietReady.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please review the Rugiet website for full safety information. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. We are almost there, friends. We're almost there. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. I like the Broncos in the AFC West. I like the Jaguars in the AFC South. I have some of these teams I want to parlay together to get even better odds. Guess when I'm waiting? August 26th, because it's FanDuel Futures Day. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. I don't think any player improved his standing on the team more in preseason and or training camp than Jordan Morgan. The 2 preseason games he played at tackle, he did not allow a pressure. In the 1 preseason game he played at left guard, playing out of position, he played mostly right guard, he's playing guard. He allowed 1 pressure. He has played right guard, left tackle, and then going back to last year, played right tackle. He has been everything the Packers hoped he could be when they drafted him in the first round. And the reason that I think he is the number 1 player on the list of Packers players who have maximized what they've been able to do in the preseason is because he is one of the few players actually pushing for a starting job. When we came into training camp, we talked about this on the show. There just aren't that many true starting positions up for grabs. And we'll talk about Matthew Golden in a second. But Jordan Morgan, whether it was at left tackle, whether it was at right guard, was going to get every opportunity. But it wasn't just that he got those opportunities, it was what he did with them. And when he was the left tackle with Rasheed Walker out, he was excellent. And then, with Aaron Banks hurt, he slides right in, left guard, no problem. Went back and watched the tape. Guess what? No real problems for Jordan Morgan. Left guard, whatever. Doesn't matter. Right guard, left tackle, doesn't matter. Jordan Morgan is just a football player. And those kinds of proclamations go a long way. He wasn't in danger of being cut. He wasn't in danger of, being a backup, really. I think the Packers wanted every opportunity, every reason to give Jordan Morgan a chance to start. And they did that. But when Morgan was given those opportunities, he was excellent in those opportunities. You go back to 2023. And for long stretches in the left tackle platoon with Yosh Nijman and Rasheed Walker, I was on this show going, I don't understand why they're doing this. Yosh Nijman has been the better player. Well, I have to believe that one of the reasons they were doing it is because they wanted Rasheed Walker, at least in the short term, to be that guy. And he goes out last year, and he was that guy. The Packers gave Jordan Morgan the chance to compete at right guard. I think he would have been the right guard by the end of the year had he stayed healthy, but he didn't. So that made this preseason, that made this training camp particularly important for the front office, for the coaches, for Jordan Morgan. And he did what he needed to do. He may open the season at left guard. I mean, to the point that we made in the open, Aaron Banks may not be ready. So you've got someone like Jordan Morgan, who is a versatile piece who can play anywhere on your offensive line. He's ready to go. That is extremely valuable. The other player that has to be mentioned here is Matthew Golden. And maybe it seems obvious, and in some ways it is. Drafting Matthew Golden is in some form an indictment of the receivers already on the roster. Or if not an indictment, a direct response to the likelihood that one or two or more of the Packers receivers that were on the roster on draft day would not be on the team in a year's time. Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson are free agents next spring, and Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, players who are going to be looking for contracts. If the Packers thought all four of those players were going to be long-term pieces for them, they would not have used the first pick in the draft that the Packers had and the third round pick on receivers. They understood the deal here. And all Matthew Golden did was show day in and day out that he is an explosive, dynamic, consistent, and that last part is key. We talked about this on the Packers Squad show. We talked about this on our post-game live. The consistency of Matthew Golden just catching the ball is vital. Just catch the ball. The problem is, I don't know how you can trust someone like Dontavian Wicks to catch the ball reliably. How can you trust Jaden Reed after the year you just saw? Now, Jaden Reed as a rookie had no problem with drops. But we are prisoners of the moments as human beings. As lizard-brained humans, we are prisoners of what we have most recently seen in this world. And what we have most recently seen is Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed could not catch a cold sitting naked on the ice in Hayward, Wisconsin. It was brutal. Matthew Golden's ability, Jordan Love talked about this. It was the first thing he was asked about what makes Matthew Golden different. Kay Adams asked him, Kevin Clark asked him, and the response was more or less the same. It's the hands. It's the fact that he just catches everything, and the play that we saw on Saturday in the preseason game is proof of that. Not a perfect throw. He's not wide open. Adversity, play. Go out and make that play. If Matthew Golden can do that, and look, I am a little bit dubious of a 5'11", 190-pound player being able to make those plays consistently against starting corners in the NFL. Maybe not the Minnesota Vikings starting corners because they're not very big and they're not very good, but by and large, can you make that same play against Quinyon Mitchell? Can you make that same play, even though I don't think he's a great player, against Keely Ringo, who's 6'1", 200 plus pounds? Can you make that play against Terrion Arnold? Can you make that play against DJ Reed? So that's the question that we need to see answered in the regular season. But we don't get those matchups in the preseason. It's not how this works. Now, there are players who belong in this category, guys like Tyron Hopper. He had a great preseason, but does it affect the regular season? I don't think so. I really don't. Now, there were players who I believe hurt themselves in the preseason. We'll talk about them next on Locked On Packers. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here, baby. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. If you haven't joined a league yet, now's the time, and it's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete and brand new features that make the game even better. With season kickoff on September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. Want more ways to play? Try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. Want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. But for the classics, get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. No crew, no problem. Join a public league, the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league today. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. All right, let's talk about the losers. I'm a loser, baby. No. So, Mecole Hardman. I thought he had a real chance to make this team. Dontavian Wicks is hurt. Jaden Reed is hurt. What's going on with returners? And the last time we saw this team in training camp with their special teams out there, the first team special teams, guess what? Keyshawn Nixon was your number one returner. That does not bode well for Mr. Hardman. And if Golden, Dobbs, Williams, Wicks, and Reed are your 5 locks at receiver to start the season, then you've got really one more spot at most, with the understanding that Christian Watson is coming back sooner than later. Well, it would make sense that Mecole Hardman would be, as your returner, that guy, except he made a couple bad decisions as a punt returner. Did not show what you really wanted as a kick returner, but not really getting any chances to do that. But then what you wanted to see was a player who, as a receiver, was going to do some of the gadget stuff well for you. And in every opportunity he got to do that, failed. Now, I don't think you need to take preseason over what we saw, for example, the Kansas City Chiefs, where we saw him on tape in the NFL for a Super Bowl caliber team contribute in meaningful ways. But on the other hand, the players that the Packers have were not on those Kansas City Chiefs teams. If Jaden Reed were on those Chiefs teams, would Hardman have been getting those opportunities? I don't think so. If Savion Williams had been on those teams, would Mecole Hardman have been getting all of those opportunities? Maybe not. We don't know with the injuries, with Williams, with Wicks, what the situation is, though. I still think the preseason hurt more than it helped. I think the backup offensive linemen not rookies of the last 2 years. So Jordan Morgan, depending on where you want to slot him, and Anthony Belton. After that, I don't know that Donovan Jennings, I think he was given the opportunity to be that 8th guy. I don't know that he took the bull by the horns in those opportunities. I thought overall it was pretty rough for him with the Colts and the Seahawks. And the Seahawks in particular, where he's going up against backups, and he did not acquit himself great in that game. Jacob Monk, Always been pretty dubious of that one. I know he was someone that the Packer fans really were excited about, mostly because I think they were excited about someone who could replace Josh Myers. But if Elgton Jenkins is going to be that, like, is your mileage the same on that? I don't see any reason why he has to make this team. And then Kadeem Telford is another one, a holdover. What do you see there? What is useful there? I just don't see it, unfortunately. And so they add Brant Banks. He's done some nice things in the preseason. Could he be someone who sneaks onto this team? I mentioned Lecitus Smith. Could he be someone who sneaks onto this team? They add Kennard. I think Kennard is going to make this team. And so then I think that leads one other player. That's Jennings, Monk, Smith. I think it's those three guys fighting for one spot. And then one or two of the other ones are going to end up on the practice squad. But I don't know that any of those guys, Jennings, Monk, and Monk in particular, did enough to make you really feel good about where they are on this team right now. Defensively, I wanted to have some better answers for this. Because I felt like Isaiah Simmons and Christian Welch were fighting out that last spot. I think there's a scenario, a world in which both those guys make the roster. I think Bo Melton was always going to make this roster. I don't know that any of these defensive players played their way off. I will say, I think there is a Jonathan Baldwin, who the Packers gave real guaranteed money to as a UDFA. I had high hopes for him coming in. And we just did not see enough there. I wanted to see so much. I was so excited. I was so ready to be excited. I was so ready to be blown away by what he was able to bring to the team. They need some of that. They need another safety. They need another defensive back here on the back end. Although I think Zane Anderson has done a nice job. Keaton Oladapo, I think, has made some progress as a player. With Xavier McKinney expected to be back, Javon Bullard is going to move to the slot full time again. So you're going to need someone else. It would be really nice to have someone else. I just don't know if any of these players have done that. Maybe Jalen Simpson, who they picked up late in the game, is someone who he's just going to end up making the team on, hey, we think this guy can be this. But I think the defense overall has been very good, and none of these players have played their way off. The one name I would offer, honestly, is Colin Oliver, who didn't play, has been hurt, but is a 5th round pick. Are you just going to expose him to waivers? Now he's hurt. Are you going to IR him and just redshirt him? I don't think that's a crazy thought, given that Barron Sorrell looked pretty good. But Barron Sorrell is hurt too. So how do you balance all of that? You really like what you're getting from your starters with Gary and Van Ness. Cox and Inigbare were outstanding in this most recent game. If you add Sorrell, that's a pretty good group. Warren Brinson going to play a little bit of 5 technique, play on the edge a little bit, or the quasi edge in this case. Maybe you don't need Colin Oliver, but it'd be really nice to see what he's got as a rookie. Maybe the Packers just don't have the room for that. Injury, once again, dictating what you're going to see. So the Packers, cut day is coming up here in short order. I would think over the next 24 to 48 hours, some of these cuts are going to start trickling out. The Packers have sometimes been willing to say, we'll do these things a little bit early. Lately, it seems like they've been doing them a little bit later. So we'll get that information, I guess, probably minutes before the deadline. That's just how this seems to work. This week, we have our squad show, Locked On Packers squad show, Wednesday evening. Exact time, we will get to you. I think we're talking about 7:15 Central Time. I think, don't quote me on that. I will get you the real time for sure by tomorrow so we can get that out to you. You can come hang out with us live on YouTube on our Locked On Packers page. We had an awesome time talking Packers postgame. We're going to continue to do that, but we'll also be here for you on Wednesday midweek. Follow me on the social medias, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on the social medias. Go subscribe wherever you find podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube so you can stay Locked On Packers.